Good morning, everyone. Glad you could make it. My name is Angie. I'm with the Montana Department of Commerce with the Export Montana program. Our job is to help Montana companies to sell outside the U.S. And we do that with technical assistance and with grant funds. And so what we're going to talk to you about today is grants for international sales. So without further ado, the partners in today's webinar are, of course, my program, Export Montana, the U.S. Commercial Service, who is my federal partner with international trade promotion, and then the Montana District Export Council, which is a group of Montana exporters. Hi, folks. If you just hopped on, please mute yourselves until you're ready to ask a question. Thanks. Okay, back to the Montana District Export Council. It's an unofficial volunteer group of Montana exporters who get together quarterly. Those of us like my program and our U.S. Commercial Service program, Montana World Trade Center, Montana Manufacturing Extension Center, we meet with the District Export Council members and talk about what Montana exporters might need. We run our project ideas past them and get some feedback. Plus, they will do mentoring for you. So if you have questions on exporting, we try to connect you with a non-competing member of the Export Council. And then also they will do trade advocacy. So if there are issues affecting Montana exporters, they will talk to whoever needs to be spoken to about fixing the issue. The first program I wanted to talk to you about is a state-funded program, and it's called the Trade Show Assistance Program. It's a small budget program that we have for exhibiting at new to you out-of-state trade shows. So if you've only exhibited in Montana and you want to grow, because we know that the first step to exporting oftentimes is moving from local, state to national, and then international is a natural progression from there. And so what we want to do is sort of build that bridge for you for first time exporting by offering this small trade show assistance program. So if you have a show that you've been looking at for a couple of years and you want to do, but it's too expensive at this time, we can provide this trade show assistance program. It's a 50% reimbursement up to $3,000. It has to be a show that you haven't exhibited at before, and it has to be in the future. And so you can use that program to try out new domestic markets. However, as of right now, the program does not have a budget. So I sort of gave you a treat and then snatched it away. But we're just waiting on the state budget to get finalized and come through. And then once we have that budget approved, then we will know for sure that that program does indeed still exist. It's only not been funded one time in the 10 years that I've been around. So hopefully that will be the case again this year. I don't know if you all heard, hopefully you did, but the state of Montana, our program, Export Montana in the Montana Department of Commerce, we applied for and were awarded an $800,000 STEP grant. STEP is the State Trade Expansion Program. It's funded by the Small Business Administration's International Trade Administration office. And so we apply for it, a bunch of other states apply for it, and then we get allocated funds to do all the rest of what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk in sort of a progression from where do I start for exporting clear through to let's get this done. So oftentimes the first stop for companies is international market research. There are 194 countries in the world. Where on earth do I start? What are the best countries for my for my product? And how do I get there? Some of the things that we can do regular, very simple trade statistics. So if you said, I sell wool socks, where in the world are wool socks sold, we can get to you the list of the trade statistics showing which countries are demanding it, whether you wanted to try to compete with the top countries that are demanding it, or somewhere in the middle where maybe their needs aren't being met by larger US brands. And so that will help make some decisions for you. There is also a program called the RAISE program. It is an acronym. I can never remember what it stands for. It's a rural assistance for international market research. It's specific to rural states. Montana just happens to be the top state for this program. We've run a lot of different companies through this program. And basically what they'll do is we connect you with the RAISE program people. It's run out of Fargo, North Dakota right now. But they're hiring people all over to cover different regions of the US. And so we connect you with the Fargo people, and what they will do is sit down with you over Zoom and find out about your product or your service, where you want to go, and then they will come back to you with a list of your top 3 markets with a whole market research report on those markets. I want to sell my wool socks. I think Brazil's a good market. They might come back and say, oh, that's a terrible market because the tariffs are too high. Or, oh, that's a great market because they love wool socks. And so the RAISE program was designed to help you limit 194 countries down to what are my best potential. It even takes into account things like um, uh, corruption index, difficulty of getting payment. So it takes demand into account, and then all the other things that are on the other side of that, of difficulty of doing business in that country. So it'll come back to you and it'll say, hey, here's your top 3 markets. Sometimes it's not a surprise. Oftentimes it is a surprise. Sometimes we don't think about where demand is for our products in the world. And so this is a great program. And it's not very expensive. I think it's 3,500, and then our STEP grant will reimburse 75% of the cost of that. And they actually even give you an action plan. For example, they'll say, if you're going to, market to Germany, then here's the trade show that you need to go to make that happen. So they'll even go so far as to give you an action plan for that. Go on here. One key, the next logical key to getting into international markets is finding international partners. More often than not, a company, you would not think about, I'm going to sell directly to the end user in that country. Probably you're looking for a distributor or a dealer or a sales rep, something like that, maybe a chain of retail stores, something like that. So how from here in Montana do I communicate with people in Japan and find the right partners there? There are a couple of ways that we can help you with that. The first way is, if you get an email or a phone call from someone, say in Japan, who wants to be your exclusive distributor for Japan, you have no idea how they found you, or maybe you met with them at a trade show and you think they might be a good fit, but this is kind of the first company you've talked to, you're not quite sure if they're a good partner. Well, we can use, through our U.S. Commercial Service, they have international trade specialists in all of the countries where we have embassies around the world. And those trade specialists in the embassy, their whole job is to help you get into that country. And so some of the things that they can help with are listed here on the page, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. So they can do the international company profile, which is a due diligence check, a credit check. And so you say, I'm working with this distributor in Japan. I think they might be a good fit. The commercial service, the international trade specialist in the embassy, say in Tokyo, would then go do a credit check on this distributor, possibly meet with them, do reference checks. They can do everything to make sure that This is a legitimate partner. They're not trying to be your distributor so that they can get exclusivity and block you from the market for 3 years. They're legit, and so they can help sort of alleviate that worry, mitigate that risk of taking on a new partner. Or if you don't have any contacts and you're not sure where to start, you're going to go to a trade show in Japan next year, and you would really like to have a distributor or a sales rep in place so that they can help you at the booth, or you can go and support them at the show. The international partner search is very, very easy to do. You can I would help you set up a meeting through our commercial service here in Montana. We set up a meeting with the Tokyo office. They meet with you, find out what your product is, what kind of buyer you're looking for, and then they will go out, and this is the best part, they will go do the cold calls for you. They'll do 20, 40 cold calls. They'll talk to all the contacts that they have. They'll shop your product out. Then they'll come back to you and they'll say, here are the 5 distributors who want to meet with you and learn more, and they might want to take you on. So they've already brought you, they've done all the work, they've eliminated all that painful work of the cold calls. They've come back to you with some warm leads, and then they'll help you set up Zoom chats with them to consider maybe picking them up before the trade show. If you're still not sure and you don't want to do that from your desk and you want to meet with them in person, you can then upgrade that to what is called the Gold Key service, where you actually travel to the country. So say you're going to go to that Japanese trade show, you can then have those 5 meetings set up at the trade show. The distributors come to you, you meet with them and talk about having them bringing your product on. And so that Gold Key service is a really cool upgrade if you're going to go to trade shows. It's a great way to make sure that when you're at trade shows, you're not having to 100% rely on the right people coming by your booth. You actually have meetings set up. The Gold Key also comes with, through our STEP grant, a $2,000 travel stipend. So if you're going to go over there and have meetings, we can give you $2,000 to travel. There is a small cost for working with the commercial service. It is a taxpayer funded, subsidized program, but there is a small cost to it. Whatever the cost is, we can reimburse 75% up to $5,000. If the commercial service, sometimes because they are taxpayer funded and, New York is calling them, New Jersey's calling them, Washington's calling them, Texas is calling them, if they are too busy to help you with any of these services, the state of Montana also has a network of contractors throughout the world that we can work with to do exact same work, only it'll be more expensive. But again, our STEP grant can reimburse 75%. So either way, it's going to be a very inexpensive way of finding international partners. I had a client out of Bozeman, they're a high-tech research related product. They did the international partners search, sat at their desk, had 9 different distributor meetings. Whoops. Sorry about that. Had 9 different distributor meetings, picked up 9 distributors all over the world without ever leaving Bozeman even once. And so it was a great program for them. They then eventually went over and met with all of them in person, but it's something very inexpensive and very easy to do for finding international partners. If you are an e-commerce related business and you want to offer international e-commerce, this could be an option for you. Or if you want to make sure that when someone searches wool socks in Japan, your product will show up in, the first few links, then you can also do what is called website globalization. Our STEP grant can reimburse for that. Let me see if that's the, oops. Oh yeah. So we have a program, a partner that will help us with the e-commerce solutions and website globalization. They offer a discounted contract rate for Montana companies. It's called Montana Online Global. So you can work with the contractor that has offered you a discounted service. They're based out of Florida, or if you have your own contractor, whoever you want to work with, as long as it's a third party, we can reimburse for, and I am not going to read all of that. I'm sure you guys have all been looking at that while I'm talking. Any of those services related there to specifically to international e-commerce, international website globalization. So anything related to that, the STEP grant can reimburse 50% up to $10,000. Don't see any questions on that, so I'll go to the next one. Similarly, if you're going to, if you rely on e-commerce, or if you want to make sure that you're getting your product in front of international researchers, you could do international Facebook ads pointed at Japan. You could do LinkedIn ads pointed at researchers in Japan. Whatever it is, and I'm just saying Japan because that's my sample country for today. But anywhere in the world. And I have had this question before. Canada is an international market. It is not one part of the US. So yes, it definitely counts. So even if you're gonna do something in Canada, totally counts. So similarly with the international digital marketing, with any of the social media or digital ad placements, even if you're going to do a digital ad, say on, you're going to go to a trade show and you want to put an ad on their webpage, and it costs, then we can help with that. This STEP grant will reimburse 50% of the cost of that up to $10,000. So I think you're kind of seeing a pattern here. We can also help with international intellectual property protection. So that would include, for example, registering your trademark, filing your patent in Japan. Sure, everyone knows this, but I'm just going to say it just in case. Regardless of whether you've registered your or filed your patent or registered your trademark in the US, it carries no weight outside of this country. So if you're going to sell into Japan, you probably should register your trademark and file a patent if it's appropriate. The only thing about filing a patent is, and trademark too, if you're going to protect it, most countries have a law that you have to vigorously defend it, which means you have to be out there, and anytime someone tries to use it, you have to get after them and get them to stop. If you file all of this, register file your patent, register your trademark, and then you just hope nobody tries to use it and someone does and they're using it for a year, and you haven't done anything about it, you may not have protection. So I recommend you work with an international IP attorney who can help make sure that it's necessary, possible, and will help you walk through the process to do it. It can take quite a while to do that. I'm sure, I know for a fact some of you have done that, so I'm sure you're nodding your heads right now. But the good news is for the attorney fees, the filing fees, the registration fees, all of that, our STEP grant can reimburse 50% of that up to $10,000. One of the things I didn't mention before that is applicable here is the STEP grant. The fiscal year for the STEP grant follows the federal fiscal year, which starts more or less October 1st every year and then goes through the end of September. So you can actually apply now for all of those expenses, that you're going to incur throughout the year to get your patent filed. And so it can be a full year's worth of expenses. Similarly, international compliance testing. I don't know if you have experienced this before, but for those of you who don't really know anything about international compliance testing, all you have to do is look at the back of the plug-in for your laptop and that little box there that's the voltage converter, which I didn't know that until recently. If you look on the back there, you'll see all of these strange markings: CE, CCC, UL, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see some of these are the international compliance testing marks. There, that is saying this product has been tested for compliance with the European standards, the CE, or the Chinese standards, whatever it is, and can be sold into this country. It's not required for every kind of product. In general, it's required for, you know, things that have electrical connections, heavy equipment, things like that, where, there is you're not going to have to CE mark a pair of socks, unless possibly you're using hazardous materials in the socks or something like that. But not everybody has to do this, and not everybody has to pay a lot of money for it, but some will, and it can be very expensive. So if you're going to work with a third party to get everything, all the documentation done, and then to register the mark, then the STEP grant can reimburse 50% up to $10,000 for the cost of that. And again, it can be a year's worth of expenses related to getting this done. And again, it has to be a third party. We can't reimburse your time to do it, but we can reimburse any third party expenses. We can also reimburse for translation expenses, whether that's in person, you go to a Japanese trade show, you need a translator on site who can help you communicate with the local buyers. Or if you're in advance of going to that show, you're going to have your website, brochures, advertisements translated into Japanese. We can help reimburse for that. And then anything either print or digital, we can help with. 50% reimbursement up to $10,000. I don't think I've ever seen a translation bill over $500, but we leave it wide open just in case. You never know. The most popular reason that people use the STEP grant is for international trade shows. And that is specifically for exhibiting at shows. It's not for walking the show to see if it's a good show for you. Sometimes it can qualify for sales visits if you're going to walk the show and just try to have meetings with people at the show. That wouldn't qualify for the trade show grant, but it would qualify for the international travel stipend. So we can talk about that here in a minute. So if you're going to exhibit at an international trade show, and we don't care if you've exhibited there before, our only limitation is if we can only fund you through the STEP grant for 3 times of a show. After the 3rd time, if you still want to go, you should have a plan and put it in your budget instead of counting on grant funds. The whole point of the STEP grant is to help limit your risks, mitigate your risks, possibly double your marketing budgets so that you can go out there and try those riskier international marketing activities or events, and the state will benefit because, you're out there increasing your sales, bringing new money into the state. When I say international trade shows, obviously trade shows outside the borders of the US, yes, including Canada, are international shows. However, there are some shows within the US that are considered international. And the way that they are considered international is if you are going to that show to get international contacts, and secondly, if more than 10% of the attendees, so the buyers that come to the show, if more than 10% of the buyers that come to that show are international, then the show could be considered, a domestic show could be considered international. You will have to provide additional documentation for the STEP grant to do that. And usually that's from the website, from the exhibitor brochure, or from the show manager. You can get an email that says, oh yeah, we've got 10,000 visitors, 2,500 of them are international. More often than not, shows will have that in the exhibitor brochure, and you could easily just take a screenshot or upload the PDF, and that will help. But you will have to have some proof. For trade shows, the STEP grant can reimburse 50% up to $10,000, except for domestic shows are limited to $5,000 at a 50% reimbursement and $500 for travel, whereas international shows, you get that $10,000 plus $2,000 for travel. So this one is a little weird. We have not had many companies use this one. In fact, I think there's only about 6 companies that I know of that even apply for international credit insurance. Um, but I want to make you aware of this as a service. So if, for example, you are going to extend credit terms to a buyer, whether that's an end user, a distributor, a sales rep, whoever it is, you're going to uh, manufacture and ship the goods, the wool socks. You're going to send them 5,000 wool socks and they're going to owe you, I don't know, $10,000. Let's just make it round numbers for me. Um, you you're then taking on some risk because you're shipping it over there. They have 30 to 60 days to pay you. You're taking on some risk. You're taking on the risk of, gosh, I hope they pay me. You're also taking on the risk of what if you're shipping it to Greece and in the meantime, the whole country, the whole banking system in Greece collapses, or the region breaks out in war, which, maybe 2 years ago, people would have kind of laughed at, but now unfortunately, that is a possibility. And so you can work with this program called XM, which is short for the Export Import Bank of America. It's a private entity similar to the Federal Reserve in its relationship to the US, but it is a US backed organization that offers international credit insurance. So you can, for pennies on the dollar, I've got a $10,000 receivable. I'm going to insure that for, oh no, math. Let's just say $100. That's probably wrong. No, that's probably right. Pennies on the dollar. For $100, I can insure that receivable. And if the country of Greece collapses in the meantime, there are some other circumstances under which the insurance would work. And so I would get up to 90% of my invoice, not of your cost, but of the invoice. So hopefully you can recoup some of those costs specific to offering credit or offering credit to international buyers. And then our STEP grant will reimburse 50% of the credit insurance fees. If that is too complicated and you would like to discuss that more, I can connect you with the X to M representative for our region, or we can just chat a little bit more about it. And I think I've got my email address. I'll just put it in here now. But I think we'll flash it up at the end. So there's my email address. Okay, so we've covered pretty much everything the STEP grant will help with. And so what I want you to, if you remember nothing else, if you don't remember anything specifically about what we can fund or what we can help with, I want you to remember that all things international we can help with, whether that's providing technical assistance, connecting you with a resource who knows the answer and can help you do it, providing grant funds, or taking you with us on some trade missions. Whatever it is, we can help you with it, or we know who can, or we have the money to do it. So you don't have to do it alone. And the programs that we have are available can often speed up your time to market and help you get there a lot faster, 6 months to 12 months faster than doing it on your own, especially if you're going to do those, vetted meetings, or limit your risk of trying out something by using the STEP grant, or limit your exposure by making sure that you do due diligence on your international partners. So then what we can provide in addition to the funding is our office, I mentioned, has the trade statistics so we can look, where your product is being sold around the world. Sometimes we can help with regulations. If you say, gosh, can I sell wool socks to Japan? Um, or beef jerky. I'm working right now on a bison jerky. Can we sell that to Norway? I have no idea. I've got contractors in country who are researching it and going to get back to me. So now we've saved that company time and money, especially if it doesn't work out. I mentioned also we have the District Export Council that can help with mentoring. I had a client who was shipping a very, very large work platform to Australia, and they were having trouble finding inexpensive shipping. They didn't know how to do it. So I connected them with one of our mentors who then uh, who does that, who ships large equipment to Australia, and they kind of helped walk them through it, got them a connection, a contact for who can help them get it shipped, and decrease their risk and sped up the process of getting that done for them. So it works out really great. And I usually do the connections, and I always connect you with someone who does not compete with you, but would have relevant experience. And lastly, we have offices all around the world that we can work with, whether it's through our American embassies or whether it's through our network of private contractors. We have offices all around the world. We have someone in country who can help you um, with navigating the rules or getting those introductions. Okay, part of the STEP grant is set aside for doing what we call trade promotion events. And so one of the examples of these trade promotion events are Montana pavilions at trade shows. These are the ones we have planned through 2024. We don't have our fall schedule set up yet, but this is through summer of next year. And so what we do is we buy, say, a 20 by 20 space in a show. So for example, in November, I'm headed to Medica. It's a medical trade show. You'll see a couple in Germany. Germany is just a major destination for European trade shows. There's no getting around it. Um, I've been to Germany quite a bit because that's just how it is. So major medical trade show in Germany for all of the European regions, some of the Asian region. And so we buy 20 by 20 space. We then break that space up into smaller, what we call kiosks, where so we'll have, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side. In the middle, we've got beautiful Montana graphics, Glacier Park, Yellowstone, mountains, elk, etc. And so we're promoting overall in the booth as Montana, and then each company has their own kiosk with a cabinet, and they've got their display set out on top, their logo on the front, and they have meetings set up, and they also will exhibit their products at the show and hopefully make some connections there. So our current plans are this medical show in Germany, IWA Outdoor um, is a Germany show that is specific to the outdoor industry, hunting, hiking, camping, etc. And then in June, we've got the Global Energy Show, which is specifically um, anything related to energy, whether it's traditional energy or sort of the newer wave, the renewables, etc. All things energy related. It's a humongous show in Germany. We have those available. There's no cost to you to participate, and we give you $2,000 to get over there. It's the cheapest and easiest trade show you will ever do because we do all of the work and all you have to, and we pay for everything, and all you have to do is show up the morning of with your backpack with some brochures, maybe a laptop in there, set it out, and you are exhibiting at an international show. So it's literally the easiest one you'll ever do. I see there's a question in the chat. I'm going to do this trade mission piece and then come back to that. We also do trade missions, and trade missions are a lot different than trade shows, but the result can often be the same. Um, a trade mission is basically we pick a market and a group of Montana companies all travel to that market at the same time. But they have been working with the contractor for 3-4 months. The contractor meets with you, learns about your product or service, what kind of buyer you're looking for, dealer, distributor, sales rep. I want to talk to government officials, whatever it is you want to do to get into the market. They will then go do those cold calls, come back to you, you pick who you want to meet with, and then we all, as in someone from my staff or me, will travel with you. We all go to, let's just pick Norway and Sweden because that's the one I'm doing next year. We all travel to Norway together. Everyone goes out and they have their customized itinerary. So for 2 days in Sweden first, every day the contractor sends you off for your scheduled meetings. Everyone else is off doing their meetings. And then in the evenings, we come together, have Montana group dinners. I'm there to help with getting you on the right train, getting you a taxi, helping you to, if you're by yourself, helping you take notes in a meeting, whatever it is you need, I'm there to support you. Then we travel to Norway, same thing, couple of days, go out, have meetings, and everybody's together in the evening. The contractor will do country overviews. So they'll explain how business works in the country, what to expect, what the opportunities are in the market, and then off you go for your meetings. It's fantastic. We have a slate of trade missions planned for next year. I am going to send you a follow-up email that has the list of all the trade shows and the trade missions and the dates of them. So this is what we have planned for next year. The only exception to this is for Canada. We don't have an in-person mission planned. We do what is called a virtual mission, which is basically like that international partner search that I mentioned before. So anytime someone needs help getting into Canada, we activate this contractor. Contractor does all of the work and helps them get into Canada and sets up meetings for them, helps them get to a trade show, whatever it is they need to do for Canada. Canada is Montana's #1 trading partner. Obviously, makes a lot of sense. Same language, shared border. We could drive things over there. So that's why we have something kind of going year round there. If you're interested in any of these missions, the email will come out and then you can let me know and we can get you signed up. Okay. I will get to your question there, but let me finish this piece here. Montana International Offices. The state of Montana has taxpayer funded offices in Japan, which is in Kumamoto, and then in Taiwan, which is in Taipei. So these two gals are Montana representatives. They are 100% Montana all the time, and any services that they provide are taxpayer funded, free to you. So if you need, for example, I'm going to sell my socks to Japan and I need some translation assistance, Mako can help with that. Or I have a supplier in Taiwan, they're not answering me, what is going on? Mei can go down there, have conversation with them and translate meetings back and forth. So any of the services that we talked about before, and really anything that you need in those markets, these two are available for that. And the way you access them is by emailing me or anyone on my team, or they're found on our website, and I will include those links in the follow-up email. So let me get back to the question, and the question is, are there any grants available for Montana companies whose design costs and employees, contractors, vendors are in Montana, but sell items that are manufactured overseas? Yes, if I'm reading this correctly, you would be eligible for everything I just talked about. If you want to come off mute, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. But it sounds to me like if you manufacture your products in Montana, design costs. Oh, I see.
No, they're not
I'm
manufactured in Montana.
I am
They're
reading this wrong.
Yeah,
Okay, yes, I understand. So what you're saying is all of the work is done in Montana except for the manufacturing, and would you be eligible for the grants? Is that correct?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay, sorry, it took me a minute. Um, that one can be tricky, and where the for the STEP grant, where the federal government draws the line is they call it 51% or more USA origin. But the way that they calculate it is based on the retail price. So if you've got, and markup is included in that. So if you do if you do all of the work in Montana, except you have it manufactured overseas, you could still be eligible depending on how you interpret that, your costs and your expenses through that, that formula. So it can be a little nuanced, but we can make it work. And what we don't want to have anyone assume is that we know what's best for your company. You know what's best for your company. And if manufacturing outside of Montana is what makes sense, then I don't believe we should punish you for that, and in any program should punish you for that. So we would work with you on that formula to make sure that we're putting the proper numbers in to make sure that you qualify.
Great. Thank you.
And you've got my email there, and this is our generic email, but there's only 3 of us, so we will for sure get that. Are there any other questions, any other situations you have? I recognized a lot of the businesses and a lot of you, so I appreciate y'all coming on and listening to me talk about something you probably already know quite a bit about. Okay, well, I think I was silent for 3 seconds, which is hard for me. So I appreciate you all hopping on. Last comment is I will reiterate, we can help with anything international. If you remember nothing else, you don't have to remember anything else from this webinar, but we help with all things international, whether it's our own expertise, grant money, or we have the resources throughout the world to help you. You don't have to do it alone, and oftentimes we can help you limit your risk by doing due diligence or giving you grant funds for trying things out. I see someone is typing, so I'm going to wait until that comes through. Oh, hi, John. One of the attendees here has been with us on a couple of trade missions, and has done really well. And so, hi, John, come on.
Yep. Thanks, Angie. I just wanted to thank you for this program's been amazing. I mean, I've been able to go on to the Medica meeting and 2 different trade missions, and it has really promoted my company and given me, some potential for great contracts, and it has really broadened my horizon of my business. So I recommend anybody taking advantage of this.
That's great. Thanks, John.
You bet.
And I see one more person is typing. I'll give it a second here. The I'm really working hard to recruit for the trade missions right now, for Norway and Sweden, if you're interested at all. We do have only 2 spots left. For the EWA show, we only have 2 spots left, interestingly enough. So those are getting really full. So if you're interested in any of those, I recommend you respond either to my email invitation and just let me know. Otherwise, uh, once we can download this recording, put it on YouTube and get it out to you, hopefully by tomorrow, you can respond back and let me know. And the last thing I'll say about this is the STEP grant. Um, it's a limited amount. I mean, you can see at $10,000 with only $800,000 how many businesses could technically apply. And so we often run out of money and have to put people on a waiting list by February or March. So if you're thinking about doing anything between now and October next year, apply now, get a placeholder in there, even if you might switch to a different trade show, or you might do, you know, you apply and want to do international marketing in England, but instead you're going to change to Japan. We can switch that up throughout the year, but get your placeholder in there so that you don't miss out, because I absolutely hate having to put people on the waiting list. And we have been trying to get more money for years and years and years. We went from 125,000 in 2014, and now we're up to 800,000. We are the fourth highest, tied for the fourth highest STEP award in the nation. So we are way out kicking our coverage, if I'm using the correct sports analogy there. And so we're doing everything we can to get more money, but please, please, please get your applications in right away. If I didn't mention it before, you can apply for everything at once. You just check the boxes and put everything in there, so you don't have to apply more than once. Also, the application should not take you more than 30 minutes. We have surveyed companies in the past and asked them how long it took them. 30 minutes was the max. If you're spending more than 30 minutes on it, you're probably trying too hard, or you know, something might be a little confusing. So give us a call and let us help you. We put we have as little requirements in there as possible, so that we can pass audit. So it's not an essay contest. It's not difficult to apply for, and hopefully you can get it done in 15 minutes or less. I see one last question. Want to clarify international compliance testing. Would the STEP grant be usable for any FCC testing that is needed for international compliance testing, such as ISC safety testing? Yes. In general, there are some things that are specifically called out, but in general, any compliance test that is necessary for entering or selling into an international market would be qualified. If it's not already on the approved list, the federally approved list, then all you have to do is give me just a little justification as to why that is important, whether it's giving me a link that explains what it is or something, and then we can approve that. So absolutely, yes. Okay, folks, I'm going to give you 12 minutes back to your hour that we had scheduled for this. But if you have any questions, I am sending a follow-up and you can respond to that with any of your questions. But we look forward to helping you with your international expansion, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on here today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Thank you.